Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Tim Kirby Russia. Today with me is Siamwalla, who is from Thailand, who somehow learned fantastic English. Maybe we'll find out how he does that. And he's involved in a lot of interaction, interrelations between Russia and Thailand, and I think also with Iran. So, Voot, thank you for giving us your time this evening.
Thank you, Tim. It's great to be here with you. And I apologize for my informal dress. It's actually midnight here in Thailand, but it's a good time to be with you. It's Friday night, and I happen to be free. So
Well,
it's great to be on your program.
Oh yeah, in fact, unfortunately, I think the time zones are a little bit kind of racist because, as someone myself who is a night owl, my brain only kind of works in the second half of the day. I tend to do a lot of interviews at night, my time, which kind of makes them really friendly for America, Canada, and England. So yeah, it's something you'll have to forgive me. It's all genetic, my dear viewers. But anyways, we want to talk about you and not my weird genetics. So. Voot, we met at the Russophiles forum, or at least some of our friends met. You came to the Russophile event, correct? That was in Moscow for this year.
It's actually our very first time going to the Russophile event and going to Russia at all. It was my first time as well as my colleagues. So there were only two people who went to this event in Moscow this time, me and Dr. Atapon Sukontapirom.
Mm-hmm.
We are both in the Thai-Russian cooperation group. It's actually now still an informal group created only several months ago
Mm-hmm.
in order to try and promote bilateral relations between Thailand and Russia.
Okay.
And
Well, so then how did so I should maybe then ask well, why? Why are you so interested in that? From what I understand, Thailand definitely is a lot more, sort of influenced by the West than, say, Iran or China, or has that changed? And why do you think it's your personal mission to have good relations between Russia and Thailand? Why?
absolutely, and you're right about that. And I think there's actually quite a long background, a little bit of context to that answer. Um, as Thailand, we have been close friends and allies with the United States during the Cold War. So after the Second World War, the Americans helped us massively in building back Thailand's economy, and also, uh, this was due to the fact that the Americans had a policy of containment of communism in Southeast Asia. A lot of our neighbors were turning communist, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand, with its monarchy, was seen as a bulwark against communism. However, what many people seem to forget, or maybe they're not aware, was that prior to the United States, we actually had very close relationships with both Iran and Russia in
Mm-hmm.
previous eras.
Oh.
So actually, our bilateral relationship with Iran started during the Safavid times, so 500 years ago. And our relationship with Russia was extremely close, even in um, the early 20th century when Tsar Nicholas II was still alive. And I think the crux of my answer would be actually, I think it is more in line with Thailand's nature and with Thailand's interests in order to have a closer relationship with Eastern nations, especially the trend that we see in the world that the Western economy is not doing so well, and we believe that we need to have more balance. And so, what we do in order to promote a better relationship with China, Russia, and Iran is in order to gain this balance.
Mm-hmm. And so, well, why do you think, is it just a matter, in your opinion, of economics that the West seems to be heading downwards? Or, I'll put it this way, you may not know, but I actually worked in your country for about half a year. And
Oh, fantastic.
I'm trying to put this in a way that comes across correctly. A lot of the Western Europeans who lived there didn't really respect your culture or your laws or anything about Thailand. Do you feel that perhaps the West has been exploiting Thailand, or am I just making things up based on the bad behavior of a few bad British expats or something?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you may be right in that there may be some people like that, but from my own experience, I think the vast majority of people, regardless of where they come from, the expats, the migrant workers in Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
they are very friendly, and
Mm.
we actually have a very close relationship with people from all across the world, especially the West. I think that's our main point here, and what we also observed in Moscow at the Russophile event
Yeah.
was that Western people, people from America, Europe, they are completely different from Western governments.
Oh yeah.
It's two different things, and so uh, we totally understand that while the Western governments are warmongering and causing conflict and chaos in other regions of the world, their citizens are peace loving, and we seek to have a good relationship with everyone.
Now, what are the sort of key pillars for, in your opinion, for Russia and Thailand to sort of cooperate? So, if there is some sort of cooperation right now, what does that look like, and what are sort of the key few things that you think would be really critical to make Thai and Russian relations be productive for both sides?
In my opinion, I think right now the relationship is quite a little too formal. What we
Oh,
really need is more people to people connections. And I think what our organization does can really help to, move towards that goal.
yeah.
You know, especially we need to try and educate and maybe give Thai people more information and more familiarity
Mm-hmm.
with Russia. What I witnessed in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, I think is very far from the perception that Thai people in general have about Russia. And I think that's the same case with people in other countries as well, is
Yeah.
that their perspectives of Russia may be, 20 or 30 years behind. We
Oh,
somehow, sometimes, have the uh, perception that Russia is still, some people even
mm.
think that Russia is communist.
Oh,
And we
I'm American, my friend. There are plenty of people in America who still think the same thing. That phenomenon is
exactly.
called a historical inertia, when the sort of historical truth of the past keeps going forward, even when it's no longer true. But besides, like communism being here, what else do average Thai people think about Russia? What is their perception of Russia?
I think generally when we think of Russian people, uh, it's more of a neutral thing. We don't really have specific um, a specific set of beliefs when it comes to Russia. Maybe let me put it this way. For Thai people, at least for me, what is very important for me is, let's say, what holds us together. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the central pillars of Thai society is the monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Russian people would understand well, because that could be something quite similar back in Tsarist Russia, when the institution was still strong. Let's say during the time of Tsar Alexander II.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tsar Alexander II, I still study about him today. The role he played helping President Lincoln in America.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very significant thing, which many Americans um, can benefit from. And that's the same with us. Just like how America has a special relationship with Tsar Alexander II, we had a special relationship with Tsar Nicholas II.
Mm-hmm.
And that stems from, our policies back at the time. Uh, well, what I'm getting at is that during the colonial era, when the European nations were, spreading their imperialism and colonizing areas all around the world, including Southeast Asia, we were very fortunate to be the only country not to have been colonized. And to this day, we still believe that part of the reason, apart from the geography, apart from the policies, was due to the friendship that our royal family had with the royal family of the
Mm-hmm.
Russian Empire. You know, King Chulalongkorn, you know, Rama the Fifth,
Mm-hmm.
who is the great grandfather of the current king of Thailand, or great grandfather, I apologize, had a very close friendship with Tsar Nicholas II. And we believe that that friendship prevented the British and the French from threatening Thailand's sovereignty. So honestly, I can say, you know, that I'm happy to be following in his footsteps, and I think that uh, that policy and gaining balance diplomatically was what His Majesty the King tried to do,
Mm-hmm.
and so we seek to do the same thing.
Now, when you came to Moscow, you seem like a pretty open-minded guy. But what did you think of the city, of the Russophile Congress, the whole event? What was your sort of impression, especially if you said that this was your first time in Russia?
I was very impressed. You know, if I can put Moscow in one word, I would say it's extremely uh, cosmopolitan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's much more international than we imagined. And one of my favorite journalists is Pepe Escobar,
Yeah.
and I remember that he used to always write in his articles that Moscow is on its way of becoming capital of the world. And being in Moscow, you can really feel that.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a contrast to the cities in the West. You know, many years ago, I had the opportunity to have been in uh, Western Europe before. You know, cities like Paris, Amsterdam, Brussels, and the cosmopolitanism there, it seems different than the one in Moscow. What we saw in Moscow was that people of different races, different ethnicities, and different backgrounds, you know, people who look like me,
Mm-hmm.
Asians, people who have dark skin, people who have white skin, blonde hair, they all live together and very peacefully. And there seems to be you know, no racial divide,
Mm-hmm.
which is different from the places we see in Western Europe, where you know the other races are new migrants or they come in illegally. It's like a very different kind of society, and it's so refreshing to see. I think it's an example that we can follow.
Very, very good. Interesting. That was kind of not what I was expecting. Very cool. And so you also are trying to, from what I understand, maybe build partnerships with Iran as well. Is that true, or did I misunderstand something?
Absolutely, you know, our group of let's call it a group of friends. You know, our group of civilians in Thailand, we are composed of you know former government advisors, politicians, people in the military, people in the uh, civil service, and people like me, you know, who are coordinators and who try to make things happen. Uh, we have three, three, three main organizations right now. There's the Thai Chinese Culture and Society Association.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Thai Iran Economic Association, and there's the Thai Russian Cooperation Organization.
Mm-hmm.
So three countries: China, Russia, Iran, and also, of course, you know, our friends the DPRK
Yes. Yes.
that we try to promote a better relationship with, because we sincerely believe that in these four countries lie the future of the world's economy and social progress.
Oh, interesting. The DPRK. Kind of surprised to hear that. That's an interesting one. Um, because they're so closed off compared to Iran or China or especially Russia.
It's actually let me tell you, not at all. I mean,
Hmm.
if you know the Koreans here, I
Ah,
mean the North Koreans, they are even more easy to contact than the Russians.
really?
I mean, the Russian embassy in Thailand um, can be quite problematic in terms of bureaucracy. I
Uh,
mean, I understand that it is a very big country. It can take time to reply, you know, for things to happen. But North Korea, being a smaller country, it's easier to work with, in a way.
and so, what kind of cooperation do you have with them?
Currently, you know, the official relations between Thailand and the DPRK, it's mostly natural resources. I believe that we import raw materials from the DPRK, and we export quite a few consumer products, mostly foodstuffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, canned foods, because we have a lot of fruits
Oh yeah.
and, yep, fruits, meats, things like that. But we seek to have a better relationship in other fields as well, so not just economic. We want cultural relationship, we want people to people relationships. We think that this is the key to having a long lasting friendship like the one we had with Russia for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there any chance that Thailand might try to join the BRICS, or is there some sort of barrier against that, or is it just not appealing?
Of course, it's very appealing, and if I'm not mistaken, I think our current government is trying to join the BRICS. And however, you know, in my opinion, I've always found that organizations like the SCO, the
Mm-hmm.
Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are even more appealing than BRICS because they are it's something very close to us and something that we can, I feel we can play a better part in, even more than BRICS. If I may give one example of something related to the SEO,
Mm-hmm.
let's say the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. I think this is something closely related to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Am I correct? Because
Mm-hmm.
the Belt and Road Initiative is, in order to expand China Silk Road and allow that economic progress that China has made to enrich other countries in the region as well. And here in Southeast Asia, already two countries are constructing railway lines which will connect with China's high-speed rail system. One is already completed, the one in the Lao PDR, the People's
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Republic of Laos, and the one in Thailand is under construction.
Mm-hmm.
And our plan is by 2028, this railway line between Bangkok to Laos should be complete, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can finally connect with the Chinese in a better way. Yes.
Oh, but so without that railroad, everything has come by sea on ships or something.
Yes, of course. So currently most of the trade is by shipping,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, yeah, I believe railroad is the future. We are very big proponents of railroad, but unfortunately, as with anywhere, there are a lot of obstacles, uh, be it bureaucracy or pressure from the United States.
Mm-hmm. Oh, oh. Well, I guess we're going to talk touch that one. Well, so you mentioned pressure of the United States. So is there, of course, the unfortunately U.S. foreign policy can be very powerful in certain places, like as we've seen in Western Europe. It seems like every politician there does whatever Washington wants. To what extent does Washington really have an influence within the Thai universe?
Fortunately, I think what is different between our situation and the one in Western Europe is every institution in Western Europe seems to have fallen under American control.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cannot think of a single branch of government which is independent in countries like, say, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But in Thailand, I believe the maybe one positive thing is that there are more than one branch uh, um, of power in which we can have a relationship with. For example, if one day um, the official foreign policy or the relationship between government and government is not so good, we can rely on relationships with other institutions, such as the military, or more importantly, with the monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I said, it is one stable factor in Thailand, which um, which is very important to Thai people, and which has shown over the years that um, the monarchy has come up with some extremely good policies over the past hundreds of years in order to maintain Thailand's independence.
Oh, and one thing, I guess while we're here, I think I'll let you go pretty soon, but I'm kind of curious then. You've probably noticed that about 200 years ago, roughly speaking, monarchy was the norm. And, and right now, monarchy is a rare thing. There's you guys, there's, I believe, the Jordanian monarch actually has power. The Saudi Arabian sort of aristocracy has power. But, very few real monarchs left. Why did your monarchy succeed where everyone else has failed?
Oh, um,
Or is that too tough a too big of a question for late night?
I would say that the main factor is we had the right policies,
Yeah.
and we made sacrifices where necessary. So let's say the major event in Thailand's monarchy,
Mm-hmm.
if this might pique some interest in your viewers, and
Yeah.
you can find additional information on the internet, was in 1932. So just before the Second World War,
Mm-hmm.
there was a revolution in Thailand, which
Hmm.
overthrew the absolute monarchy and installed a constitutional system instead.
Mm.
A constitutional monarchy,
Yeah.
for that matter. And in other countries, if such an event happened, it might have been that the monarch may have resisted and used force, or try to attempt to stop the revolutionaries. But in Thailand, quite the opposite happened, because from what we studied in from what we read, the king at that time, Rama VII, he chose to sacrifice, and he believed that the only way was stepping down. And so that opened the way for, even though the monarchy was weakened at that time, over time they have been able to regain foothold.
Mm-hmm.
And I I think that is the key to survival. It's flexibility and making sacrifices when necessary. And this was really poignant to me, because when we visited, when I was in Moscow this time, I had the opportunity to spend a few days in St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say, that city really touched me, especially as a Thai person, seeing all the history of the Romanovs,
Oh
how
yeah.
how great they were. I mean, the palaces were extraordinary.
Yeah.
Uh, when I went into the Winter Palace, the Hermitage, one of the rooms literally brought me to tears, because
Mm-hmm.
I envisioned all the things that happened in that room. And when the revolutionaries stormed that palace, it seems to be um, a chain of events which could have been prevented
Yes.
with better.
Yes.
And I'm sure, as half Russian yourself, you know too well what happened after the revolution in 1917.
Yeah.
Like Russian society, if I'm not mistaken, it collapsed.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's sort
the
of
Bolsheviks,
in a way
when they first,
it sort of ate itself. It turned inwards and destroyed itself. Of course, the Russians who are watching this are going to say, "Well, it was all financed by the West. It was made by the West." Yeah, made by the West, but the Russians still did a good job of killing themselves, and that's something that I think is very in the minds of people today. Of how can we avoid this sort of fate happening again? And I think that's one of the reasons why in Russia there is very little interest in any sort of revolutionary change. It came at way too high of a price.
I remember President Putin saying multiple times that Russia has had its fair share of revolutions,
Yeah.
and what they need now is stable leadership, not some abrupt change.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was just about to mention how the Bolsheviks, when they came, they carried out some very extreme policies,
Mm-hmm.
such as the radical uh, um, liberalization of society,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which in the end caused the collapse in the birth rate.
Yeah.
When they liberalized the family structure so much that people committed adultery, fornication, and
Mm-hmm.
in the end it collapse society. That the Bolsheviks, by the time of Stalin, they had to reverse those policies in order to build the population back up again.
And that's
So
actually the
yeah,
kind of problem Putin's facing because the sort of degradation issue happened in the 90s. The 90s were the time where you could just do anything you want, and society was sort of thrown to the wind. So now that exact same set of circumstances is kind of happening all over again because we need to have more families and more children and a bigger, brighter future. So,
and allow me to make this connection. So may God protect me from by saying this. I think it may be a risk, but your viewers who are watching, I think it could benefit all of us from knowing this information. Is we believe that the people who toppled the Romanov dynasty, the people who murdered Tsar Nicholas II, were financed by the same people who carried out the revolution in Thailand in 1932, which
oh,
attempted to harm the Thai monarchy. So uh,
very interesting. And you're
that is the
probably
key.
right. And you're probably
Yes, I
right.
think it's the global financiers, which
Gotcha.
needless to say the name, I think we all know who they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think they are the people who President Putin call, the men in black hats, right? The men in black suits.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
whenever a new president comes to office, he enters the White House and the men in black suits come in and tell him what to do.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So the global bankers
Well,
who seek to divide and rule and uh, um, abolish our most beloved institutions
mm-hmm.
in order to damage our societies.
Well, yeah.
I, there's one more point which if you have time I would like to add.
Yeah,
You
oh,
know,
yeah.
in Southeast Asia, apart from Thailand, our closest neighbor is Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. What happened to Burma was a complete tragedy. What the British did during the colonial era is when they came in and conquered Myanmar, they abolished the country's monarchy. And
Mm-hmm.
just like in Thailand, the monarchy was the central institution of Burmese society. The king was beloved by the people, and by abolishing the monarchy, it kind of removed the soul from that nation. And if we see Burma today, I think it hasn't really fully recovered from what happened then.
Wow.
The evil of the British at that time, they came into South and Southeast Asia. They removed the last emperor of India, the last Mughal emperor. He was exiled to Rangoon
Mm-hmm.
in Burma. And the last king of Burma was exiled to India.
Oh.
I,
Oh.
I always find that evil, uh, particularly disturbing.
Yeah.
How they are able to ruin two nations in that one move.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could even make the argument that some of the problems that exist in Russia either go back to the Bolsheviks or go back to World War II or some sort of combination between those two horrific events because the amount of people who died as a result of them and the amount of chaos that was created in society is still with us today in Russia. And yeah, you can definitely see it. It's kind of hard to imagine what Russia would be like without those events. In fact, I was talking to one priest a few years ago, so maybe there's been progress, but a few years ago, he said, during the process of the Bolshevik Revolution, 90,000 churches were destroyed. We've rebuilt
Yeah,
30,000.
tragic.
Yeah, but it was with the hint that there's still 60,000 to go. We're still a long way away from the restoration of the Russia that people want. So I found it very poignant the way he said that. So, but anyways,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Voot, for being with us. Is there anything you'd like
yeah,
to promote, or so people could maybe get in contact with you?
yeah.
A website, a Telegram group, a YouTube channel, something of that nature.
There actually is. It's not a contact to us, specifically, but I want to promote an idea. So
Mm-hmm.
any viewers of yours who are listening, or especially our American friends, I want to let you know that me and my friends and our group in Thailand, we are by no means anti-communist. All the comments I made against the Bolsheviks, or how much I, supported the relationship with the Tsars and the Romanovs, it doesn't mean that I am against communism or, against the revolution or anything. What we want to say is that, uh, communists, they are people too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we should view people as people. I mean, it doesn't matter if they are monarchists or they are communists. In the end, we are one nation, and that's exactly the message that our late King Bhumibol, King Rama the Ninth, said. I remember watching an interview many years ago when a journalist from the BBC, he went to one of the king's, uh, developmental projects in the rural areas, and he asked the king, by doing this project, are you trying to prevent, combat the spread of communism, and will it benefit, the fight against the communists? And the king said, we are not fighting against communists. We are fighting against hunger.
Mm.
It's the basic issues that we should be, um, uh, that we should be cooperating together.
Yeah.
And then ideology shouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is I think that's one of the benefits, I would say, of the collapse of the Soviet Union, is that Russia is no longer held back by the dogmas of the USSR.
Yeah.
I went to Russia today. This time, one of the things which really impressed us was how open they are to their history. Unlike many other countries, especially in Europe or even the United States, I think Russia nowadays is able to fully embrace all periods of its history.
Yes.
You remember, yeah, like that massive monument by the Lakhta Tower in St.
Mm-hmm.
Petersburg, where they erected three enormous flags of the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and the Russian Federation.
Yeah.
I think that really shows like human progress. It shows that we should embrace our history instead of trying to censor it like they
Mm-hmm.
are doing in the West. And
Yeah.
I believe that is very damaging. When
Oh
you
yeah.
censor history, you prevent people from learning it, and then how can you possibly, prevent the same mistakes from happening again? So no wonder they are trying to. The same mistakes seem to be happening again. Look at what's happening in Germany now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I saw that we were shocked. Uh, that leak from the Luftwaffe.
Yeah. Yeah. That they're considering to actually more directly attack Russia. That's which is just insane. It
It's
destroyed
unbelievable.
fighting Russia's destroyed them twice, and this time they don't have anything like they used to have in the past. You know,
It's unbelievable.
at least during World War One and World War Two, they at least had a titanic, well modernized, extremely professional army. Germany's got nothing. In a modern context, they have nothing. So
And I apologize to your viewers, but I can't help but going back to our kings again.
yeah.
Our king who traveled to Russia, I think in 1905,
Mm-hmm.
in order to meet with Tsar Nicholas II. He also stopped by in Germany, and he met with the former chancellor at that time, Otto von Bismarck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one quote by Chancellor Bismarck which I really love, and I don't understand why the German people are no longer living by this quote. It's that the secret of politics is to have a good treaty with Russia.
Yeah.
I think
Oh yeah.
that cannot be more true for Germany. And when I see all the periods where Germany was successful in its society and its economy, it was when they had a good relationship with Russia. I
Yeah.
mean, look at Germany during Bismarck's time, or more recently, when Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder signed the agreements in order to build Nord Stream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The German economy was booming,
Yeah.
but now they allow themselves to be sabotaged by the United States. It's a great tragedy.
Yeah, it really is, because ultimately, the real problem in Germany is the fact that they're a vassal and they have to do what the boss tells them, and unfortunately, they're kind of falling into the same pit over and over again. But anyways, I just want to thank you very much for being with us here, Vut Siamwalla. It was a pleasure, very interesting, and I cannot wait to see you in Russia again, hopefully before the next Congress.
And I cannot wait to see you in Thailand. We
Oh,
very
one,
much look forward to have you back here
all
again.
right, one day I'll be back. I miss the Sai Tai chicken. You have no idea. All right, man. All the best. All right, friends. Thank you for being with us as well. See you on the next episode of Tim Kirby Russia.